Today, let us try and understand something that we all can relate to. We Indians are born into it. Some take pride in it, and some are humiliated for being born into it. Yes, we are going to talk about caste and caste based reservations in India. While reservations give wings to few, few feel that they are handicapped because of the reservations. While one benefits from the reservations, the other is at a loss. So, the way you look at reservations can be different from your neighbor. To understand the logic behind this, we need to move far away from the modern world that we live in. Reservation in India is a process of reserving certain percentage of seats for a certain class such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward classes or economically weaker sections in government educational institutions, government jobs or legislatures. Religious theory of origin of society derives from the hymn of the 10th mandala of the Rigveda, the Purusha Sukta. This divides the society into four varnas that are hierarchical in nature. On the top of this ranking are the priests, Brahmins, who associate with head or brain, followed by the warriors and erstwhile rulers, Kshatriyas, who associate with masculinity. The next to come are the farmers and merchants, Vaishyas, who associate with trade. While the last in the hierarchy are the workers and craftsmen, Shudras, who associate with labor. There was another class of people, or rather no class people, known as untouchables or avarna, that is, who has no class. They associate with street sweepers and manual scavengers. Another justification derives from the theory of karma. This concept rationalizes the caste system based on birth. It supports the argument that people of the lower caste have to blame themselves for their troubles and low status because of their bad karma in their past life. The law of karma states that the present condition of your soul is based on your decisions in the past actions. Also, your present thoughts, decisions, and actions determine your future life events, and these events can define your karma. Even after 3000 years of Rig Veda, the caste system is still prevalent and few take pride in it. One should understand that the then prevalent caste system was a major reason for the advent and advancement of the reservation policy in India. The idea of giving reservations to a certain class of people originated because of the atrocities done on certain class of people. To give them an equal opportunity and status in society, to bring them on par with other sections of society, reservation policy was adapted. Even though caste system was prevalent from thousands of years, the legal origin of reservation policy in India began through Government of India Act 1919. The then UK's Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald took a step further and announced communal award where the separate representations were to be provided to Muslims, Sikhs, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians, Europeans and Dalits. Depressed classes were assigned a number of seats that were to be filled by election from special constituencies in which voters belonging to the depressed classes could only vote. The award brought in criticism from Mahatma Gandhi but was strongly supported by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and other minority groups. As a result of the hunger strike by Mahatma Gandhi and widespread revolt against the award, the Pune Pact of 1932 came into being, which cancelled communal electoral and brought in a single general electorate for each of the seats. The stamping of the provisions of Pune Pact 1932 were done in the Government of India Act of 1935, where reservations of seats for depressed classes was allotted. The reservation policy gained even more momentum in the post-independence era. The Constituent Assembly chaired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar framed the reservation policy and many articles in the Indian Constitution favoring the downtrodden communities. In 1982, it was specified that 15% and 7.5% of vacancies in public sector and government-aided educational institutions should be reserved for the SCs and ST candidates respectively. A significant change began in 1979 when the Mandal Commission or the Socially and Educationally Backward Classes Commission was established to assess the situation of the socially and educationally backward classes. In 1980, the Commission's report recommended that a reserved quota for OBCs of 27% should apply in respect of services and public sector bodies operated by the union government. It was not until the 1990s that the recommendations were implemented in union government jobs. In 2019, the government announced the 10% reservation in educational institutions and government jobs for economically weaker section of upper caste category. The concept of reservation was introduced to fight a long existing practice of discrimination within the Hindu communities. Some castes were ranked as higher up and the others were low tier, with the former often discriminating against the latter. Unless the gap between these Hindu communities is narrowed down socially and economically, reservations are here to stay for a long time. Let us look how well India fares in untouchability before we decide if India needs caste-based reservations or not. The National Council of Applied Economic Research and the University of Maryland together conducted a survey in 2004-05 and 2011-12 to see the continuing practice of untouchability in India and its patterns. As per the survey, urban residents are 24% less likely to practice untouchability than their rural counterparts. Also, with reference to the SCs, the Brahmins are 6.5 times more likely to practice untouchability, recording the highest incidence of the practice for any group. They are followed by the forward castes and the OBCs, who are 2.8 and 2.2 times more likely to indulge in the practice. In religious groups, the Muslims and Christians are less likely to practice untouchability by 58% and 56% respectively, as compared to the Hindus. The odds of the Sikhs practicing untouchability are 14% lower than those of the Hindus. Some of the lowest and most significant findings are seen among the STs and other groups, who record 78% and 98% lower odds respectively practicing untouchability. Does education make a difference in controlling untouchability? Well, higher education is seen to negatively affect the practice of untouchability. As compared to a household with no literate members, a household with an adult having education up to 10th or 11th standard has 14% lesser odds of practicing untouchability. As the level of education rises to the higher secondary college levels, the odds of practicing fall by 23%. Education is thus clearly one of the crucial factors that lead to a change in conservative and orthodox mindsets. Across occupation types, the findings for those involved in farming is seen to be positive and significant. Thus, cultivators are 32% more likely to practice untouchability as compared to salaried professionals. Interestingly, 70% of the population in the survey reported not indulge in the practice of untouchability. This is an encouraging sign for India. All said and done, the issue of reservation has remained a cause of disagreement between the reserved and the non-reserved sections of the society. The reservation policy in India was adopted with a reason to uplift certain castes who were subjugated to atrocities due to the prevalent dominance of caste system in Hindu society. Reservation is no doubt good, as far as it is a method of appropriate positive discrimination for the benefit of the downtrodden and economically backward sections of the society. But when it tends to harm the society and ensures privileges for some at the cost of others for narrow political ends, as it is in the present form, it should be done away with as soon as possible. Many of the lower caste have gained a lot from the partial elimination of the caste system, and India should be applauded for its constant effort to eradicate this system of stratification from its culture. It is, however, important to look at the importance of how caste status has affected the quality of life and social mobility in India today. It is time we address the challenge of reservations honestly, openly, fairly, and innovatively. We cannot bury our heads in the sand forever like an ostrich. We are correcting the mistakes made in the past so that our future doesn't need to correct our mistakes. Thank you.